Welcome! Today we're going to glaze this and another pot similar to this with textures and in a dark clay with a layer of porcelain. It's sort of a new experience for me and I hope you will join me and see the result in the end of this video. As you may recall, a couple of weeks ago I made these new pots with a combination of stoneware and porcelain, which theoretically shouldn't work, but it did. I applied on this one porcelain slip, scraped, expanded it and got these wonderful textures. I also did a bowl where I applied a thicker layer of porcelain to challenge myself and scraped some texture into it to make this pattern. They both came out great from the bisque fire, which was a little bit of a surprise to me because, as I mentioned, the combination of stoneware that shrink about 10% and this particular porcelain that shrink about 20% shouldn't work. It should crackle. It didn't. I already glazed another one. I did a sink. I have that in another video, where I also applied this layer of porcelain, but a very thin layer. It didn't crackle, not even in the glaze fire. So now I'm moving on with these two. This have a much thicker layer than the other ones. And I would say if this one crackles a little bit, that will be fine. For the bowl, I hope it will stay intact. Anyway, today we're going to glaze it. And I was going back and forth a lot of times about what glaze to use. But I ended up using one of my own glazes, or own adaptations or adjustments. It was originally a charcoal black matte glaze. It's from John Britt's Mid-Fire Glaze book, which is a wonderful book, by the way. But inspired by a fellow potter in one of the Facebook groups, I want to make a gray version of it. So you may have heard this story before, but I'll tell it again. So I took out the colorants and I added a little bit of cobalt and a little bit of black stain. I didn't have a gray stain. What I forgot, or didn't know actually at the time, is that because there's a lot of rutile in this glaze, and rutile have titanium, and titanium reacts with the cobalt, and instead of making it bluish, it made it greenish, but a very beautiful green that I ended up using a lot on my plates. And this is in fact the same clay, the same dark clay. As you can see, it doesn't look so dark now, but after the higher temperature of glaze fire, it will be almost black. And this glaze, I think, comes out so beautiful on these plates. It highlights the textures very well, which is something I want. And it's not too thick. It's not like putting a whole thick glass layer on top of it, which is also good because I want to maintain some of the texture. And it looks good on the black clay. So that's the one I'm going to use today. But as always, to begin with, we need to clean the pots because they've been sitting around for a couple of weeks, and even if they didn't, there could be little leftovers of particles, and the cleaner the surface is, the better the glaze will stick. Now for textured pots like this, it can be a little bit of a challenge to clean it, but still try and get it as clean as possible because that's the only way to make sure that, that your glaze sticks. I'm going to clean the lower part from most of the glaze. I will give it the same glaze inside and out, and I will also glaze the inside of the foot. Of course, not the actual foot, otherwise it would stick to my kiln shelves. So that was it. And now for the bowl. It's also a little more difficult to clean things like this, but again, try your best. The cleaner it is, there's no dust, no particles, no finger marks or anything. you're more sure that the glazed will stick. And also on the outside. And again here, I'm not gonna glaze the actual foot. Gonna leave that. It will be beautiful, I think, with this foot in a dark, almost black clay. But I will glaze the sides and I will glaze the inside of the foot. So, there we go. Now we're ready to glaze. As always, when glazing, make sure that your glaze is well mixed. If it's been sitting a little bit, could be lumps in it, you may need to sieve it, but this one seems to be okay. You may also need to adjust it. This one have ingredients that tend to gel up a little bit, so I had to add just a little bit of water and a little bit of sodium silicate to defluctuate it. I do have a video about fluctuation and defluctuation. I will put a link somewhere for you to watch. But now I think the consistency, the fluency, and the gravity, specific gravity, is good for this glaze. So I'm ready to glaze. I will start out with the vase, which is probably going to be the easiest part. I'm going to start out with the inside because I need to pour it around and pull it out, and so I will touch the outside. So if I glaze the outside first, I will probably scratch off the glaze. So I'm going to start with the inside. I'm basically just going to pour in some glaze, shove it around a bit, and I don't need a very thick layer of this glaze. In fact, a thinner layer works best on this one. So, that looks good. I'm just going to let it dry a little bit because I need to put my hand inside for doing the outside. Next up is the bowl. And I'm going to do the same thing, the inside first, because I need to swirl it around and get it out. The challenge here is that I want a relatively thin layer, so I need it to stay in here as short as possible for this particular glaze. So let me see how that's going to work. I hope this is thin enough. I did notice that there's a few lumps. I can ease that out once it's dried, so I hope it's going to be okay. There is a few spots here on the side where I didn't get glazed. I can just dip that on. And down here. So I think that's going to be okay. So something like this. I'm going to let this dry. Now I'm ready to do the outside and the foot. I actually think I'm going to start out with the foot, the inside of the foot. I'm just going to pour in, swirl it around, throw it out as quickly as possible. I think that's going to be okay. This one doesn't run. At least if it does, it's very, very little. So this should be fine. And now I want to try and pour it on the outside. It's going to be a little more of a challenge. So far, so good. This actually looks pretty good. There's a little bit up on the neck, but I think I will just dip it upside down to get that done. Now, I also want to remove the glaze on the foot, and have to turn it around a little bit to do that. Of course, I need to clean the button again. So it's not perfect yet, but I will just let it dry a little bit, and then I will do the rest of this. That looks good. So far, so good. Now it's time to do the bowl. I already took my finger over some of the little lumps that I got in there, and I think I got it eased out. So because with this glaze, I don't want the layer to be too thick, but I think this turned out okay. So I'm basically going to do the same here. I'm going to do the inside of the foot really quickly. So, like this. Just gonna clean the foot. I'm gonna hold on to that when I do the outside. So I don't want too much glaze now. I will clean it even more detailed once I'm done with the final glaze on the outside. I think that's gonna be good. I want to make sure that my hands are dry, and now for this one I can actually hold on here, and I'm going to take it a little bit in sections and need to make sure that it drips into my bowl and not out on my table. It's a little bit of a challenge, but I think I will make it. That wasn't too bad. I just want to clean the button, and then I will let it dry. And I think it's just a little bit on the foot that I want to get rid of. Yeah, I don't want to touch it too much more now because it's still sort of a little bit wet, and I don't want to disturb it or mess up the glaze. So, yeah, now I actually messed it up a little bit on the outside. I think I can repair that. Just gonna leave it here for a moment. Now the pots have dried. I dipped a little bit of glaze up here where I missed it when I poured it over, and I think it's nice and clean. I'll just take the sponge just an extra time just to make sure that there's nothing here, because I want to keep that nice and dark, and I think that's going to look good. So this is ready to put in the kiln. I also finished the bowl. It was a little more problematic. There was a little bit of flaking. There was a little bit of lumps to begin with, but when you use your finger and just lightly massage the glaze a little bit, you can even out the lumps, and if there's some flaking, you can also fix that. So I think I got it fixed. I also, on this one, just want to make sure that my foot is completely clean, not only because I don't want anything on the bottom, so it will glue to my kiln shelves, but I also want to make sure that the foot is without any glaze, so that will just be black. I think that will be nice in contrast to the glaze. I do still have a little bit of flaking off, but I think I can fix it. I'm just gonna take the glaze, it's already mixed up, take my brush and just lightly dip it on. Yeah, I think that's gonna be okay. I hope so. Worst case, you can always reglaze. I have another couple of videos about reglazing. So we'll see how this comes out. This comes out. Now, this is ready to put in the kiln too. Good morning. Now we're ready to unload the kiln. And I know I said this many times before, actually every time I open the kiln, be patient. And I'm not the most patient person in the world, but it pays off to be. Because if you open it too early, especially if it's a glaze fire, there's a risk that the glaze will crackle, and also it puts a stress on your heating elements if you open it and it's too warm. And anyway, you can't handle the pots if it's 100, 200 degrees. So wait, it pays off. But now, finally, we can open it. And today, I'm extra excited because I did these bowls with mixed glaze. So some of it is based on stoneware, but then I added this porcelain. It survived the bisque fire, but it could still distort, it could crackle, it could go wrong in the glaze fire. So I'm excited to see how that goes. See, at least I can see now that the porcelain survived. It didn't flake off completely, and the texture it did stand out very strong. That's a good sign. So I'll get it out of the kiln now and take a closer look inside. After taking a closer look, I'm still very happy. It did turn out exactly the silky matte surface that I wanted, and the color came out right, and the texture stands out so strong. So I think this is definitely interesting. There was a little bit of challenging on the outside, but I kind of like the variation that it got, and it's beautiful with the completely black foot. So I think all in all, this is very beautiful. And the same thing with the vase. It actually, from a glazing technical point of view, turned out even more perfect. It's more even, and it highlights the structures, the texture with this glaze. And again, the black foot, just beautiful. It makes it sort of float a little bit in the air. All in all, I think this turned out really beautiful. So I'm happy. The experience was a success. And also note that none of the porcelain crackled or flaked off or anything that I would have feared. Because again, there's a huge difference in the shrinkage rate. It's 20% for the porcelain and only 10% for the stoneware. And yet it succeeded. It survived. Sort of magic, but sometimes you have to defeat logic to get new, interesting results. I'm definitely gonna do more work with this. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, then please subscribe, share, write a comment if you have some good ideas, and come back next week. I will have a new video on next Sunday at 5 p.m.-ish Central European time. Try to be as precise as I can. So I just hope to see you soon again. Have a good day.